What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to Double Coverage. Hope you're still living, loving, and breathing sport. I'm Dom with the Great Man Sauce. Special guest, podcast is back, Saucy. Who have we got today, mate? Who have we got?
Today we have got platinum standard grading, so we've got BJ and Chris with us. So introduce yourselves, lads. Where you're from, and tell us a little bit of background of the origins.
I'll go first. My name's Christopher Bilston. I was born in Melbourne, grew up in Sydney, and spent 10 years living overseas. Moved over there when I was 19. Came back to Australia, and I'd been working in the gambling space for about 5 years, and moved back to Australia and sort of linked up with like the bigger betting companies like Ladbrokes, the TAB, and stuff like that. And then CrownBet became a thing in Melbourne, so I moved down there, and I was at CrownBet, BetEasy, which then became Sportsbet. So I was down in Melbourne for about 5 years. Then COVID happened, and I had some things planned. I was supposed to go to Japan and South Korea, like 8 weeks. Just going to basically shop, buy shoes and clothes, and travel around. And then COVID happened, so I was sitting on this extra cash in lockdown in Melbourne. The weather got to me, so I moved up to the Gold Coast, and randomly met BJ on Facebook Marketplace. I think it was.
It was, yeah.
I was
Match made in heaven.
What were you trying to buy off him?
Oh, yeah,
It was a mosaic hanger, I believe.
It was.
But yeah, I've been I collect shoes, Lego, and I'd always been in cards, but nothing crazy. It was a sort of a side thing. And then COVID happened, so I started flipping boxes, more shoes as well. And BJ just hit me up one day and said, "Whereabouts are you?" And it just happened that we're in the same suburb, so I just dropped into his office, and I had what I called a sample box, which was just a box of everything that I had, basically, one of everything. And he turned up and he's just like, "Yep, I want one of those, one of those, one of those." And that was it.
And the addiction began.
Yeah, basically. He had just got back into cards like a couple of weeks earlier. So it was perfect timing.
And then
Beautiful.
I've seen him every day since.
You couldn't get rid of him, so he rocked up off Marketplace, and then you've been stuck with him ever since.
Yeah, I never left.
100%. It's like one of those scary stories off Craigslist in the US. You know, someone rocks up to your house and never leaves. Yeah, it's one of them. But no, I think the first day when we had a beer together, then it was like, yeah, this is probably going to go all right. So.
Very nice.
Yeah, so I continued to work from home with Sportsbet, and just it wasn't the same. I was used to working in an office with like 40 blokes. It's like a trading floor. It's like going to the pub basically with all your mates, and it's just like banter and stuff.
Every sport known to the human race.
Oh, everything
It's sick.
Crazy.
Squirrel racing on the jet skis. Like you get
everything,
all that type of stuff.
Japanese boat racing, everything. You name it, I've watched it and probably enjoyed it.
We were racing on jet skis.
Yeah, man.
Haven't you seen Dodgeball?
Yeah, I have. Yeah. That's
ESPN 8, the O show.
Crazy things. Yeah. Marble racing, I've had to watch. We used to live trade MasterChef, like when it was on TV. Like some dude would be burning the chicken, and he'd be moving prices. It's a lot of fun, trust me. But yeah, working from home just didn't have the same feel to it. You know, you're staring at a screen, and it just wasn't the best. So, me and BJ had talked about the hobby in general, the space for months on end. He had sort of like laid the groundwork. There was a couple of people that started before me, and then sort of once it got to a position where he was ready to go to market, he sort of approached me. BJ likes to put he's sort of like Inception. He'll
plant the seed.
He'll plant the seed, and then like months down the line, he'll bring it up again, and so you think it's your idea. So like he could definitely be an actor in Inception.
Thanks very much,
Leonardo DiCaprio.
Yeah, mate, I've got the looks, 100%.
Yeah, definitely. So give us the rundown, BJ. Tell us about yourself.
So my name's actually Brett. It's Brett McCallum. Everyone knows me as BJ because of a persona that I actually had online because I got hacked on Facebook once and couldn't put my real name back up there. But I had my first pack of cards in 1979. So before any of you were even thought of. and it was a Scanlan's NRL pack. I still remember collecting cards back then. I got out of it for a bit, collected pretty big in the 80s and 90s. I got married to an amazing woman when we were really young, and she's still lucky enough to have me today. And we got 4 kids. So what we did, we went to London for 6 months and come back 9.5 years later with a couple of kids. And during that period, I sort of got out of that market. But I became an entrepreneur. And I know it's a fucking wanky word, but I invest in a lot of different businesses, and I actually create businesses and create opportunities. So I'm one of those guys that just has a crack at things, at life and at business. And so when I got back into collecting around COVID, I was cleaning up the house and I found all these old cards, and the wife said, yeah, that'd be a good idea to get rid of those now, in much terse terms. And so I put them up on Marketplace and got nothing for them. They weren't worth shit. So I then met this girl, because there was a couple of cards that I think needed a bit of tender loving care. So she sold me some top loaders actually, and she was talking to me about brakes and things like that. And I had no idea what she was talking about. I'm an old man. And anyway, we got into it, and she was saying jump in this brake at New Year's Eve. And so we did, and it was some ridiculous 99 box brake or something stupid. And I ended up jagging a LaMelo ball on card auto worth about $2,000. And I'm like, oh, wow, that was pretty cool. It only cost me a couple $100 to get into this. But the funny thing, I'm sitting there on New Year's Eve drinking mojitos, which I quite enjoy, and watching some bloke open cards on an iPad at midnight. And my wife's going, what the fuck are you doing? Like, seriously. And I said, Dale, I just made some money. So she was happy with that. And then she said to me, well, why don't you have a crack? And so I did it for the next 63 days straight. I went in breaks for the next 63 days straight and won every game, every time. The next one I went in, I got 7 Zions, including a to 5, which was worth a big chunk of change. And I got a little bit addicted again. That's my type of personality. So I ended up after those 63 days with about 3,500 cards. And I'm sitting there going, holy shit, what am I going to do with this stuff now? I just got rid of all the crap. So I thought, oh, well, let's open a card shop. That's a really good idea. And then I met this knucklehead online, and the romance began of him coming to the shop or to my office once a week with a box of cards, and we'd pick what we'd open. And I think it was the second visit, I said to him, well, why don't we just crack them now? And he goes, oh, all right then. I said, well, do you want a beer? And he goes, yeah, all right then. So we did that, and then pretty much every week after that, we'd just bring cards, we'd break them, and we'd drink beer. And we got to know each other, and I started to understand what type of guy he was. And I said to him, look, I want to open a grading company. And his first question was, why the fuck would you do that? And I said, because there's a massive hole in the market here. At the time, I just invested in a shop. I think you boys have got the Rip and Collect boys. Big shout out to those lads. Yep. We backed the boys into that, and Chris came in on that with me, and that was our first investment we did together. And the Rip boys were starting to sort of make a bit of traction in the industry. They went down to Sydney to Hobby Hangout and all that sort of stuff. I think they were on your podcast and all that sort of stuff. And that was starting to look pretty good. So I'm like a guy that sees opportunities and then looks and how can we tenfold that? And as part of that, what I wanted to do was have the full circle. I wanted to be able to collect cards, sell cards, and the big one that was missing for me was the grading of cards. And so I came up with Platinum Standard Grading. The brand came about because Platinum's better than gold. The logo, which you can probably see on the hat there, of the P with the star in it, so it looked a little bit like it was from the US, because the whole idea and everything that we do is based around the fact that it's global on day one. We want to break into the global market, and so I did that, and then I went out and I needed to find some graders, and I actually listened to your podcast when you guys were doing a review on our site, and you were talking about, I don't think you could say cardologist because you kept saying cardiologist, which was actually for the heart.
Sauce
on fire, yeah. And the reason what we did is I didn't want to just have graders. I wanted to have guys that have been in the industry for a long time and actually understand cards. Actually understand the smell of the card, the touch of the card, like all the bits of the card, and also actually feel like something when they're looking at these things, because I think that makes a massive difference than just sort of looking at a card and grading it with a bit of plastic or with a microscope. And so I found a couple of guys, the Mojo Chaser boys. I don't know if you know those guys, Stash and Pugs. And I approached them, and they were like, "That's my dream job." So we put them through a whole training piece. We trained them up. We coached them up on how to grade cards properly, and then we took them through, and they became cardologists or chief cardologists. I think their titles are now, aren't they? Executive cardologists.
Oh.
That's what it is. I let them name themselves. That was always a handy thing to do. And then during that process, I run multiple businesses. So I then went, oh, shit, I need someone to come in and run this for me. And Chris was always the target. And that's how Chris became the general manager of Platinum Standard Grading.
Love it. Great story.
Awesome.
Very good story. It's great to have, obviously, another company come up in the Australian hobby, and something that we can support, and hopefully everyone gets around and supports. I know there is a few card grading companies here. They're not very prominent out there in the hobby, but you have really hit the ground running and put yourself out there. You were at the Hobby Hangout. You did some great stuff there. I want you to give a bit of an insight to people listening to this on your intention here for Platinum Standard Grading in the Australian hobby. Obviously, you've gone to Hobby Hangouts. I want you to explain yourselves what you did at the Hobby Hangout, because that was pretty awesome. You gave a little bit of an insight in how you graded. So just your intention in the hobby here.
Our intention is to be the number one in Australia within 12 months.
Beat me to it.
Did I?
Yeah.
Sorry to rudely interrupt.
I was going to say exactly that.
Number one in Australia within 12 months, global within 24 months, and to have the technology in place to use artificial intelligence and machine learning to pre-grade cards. We will never grade cards just with AI. You have to touch the card, you have to smell the card, you have to feel the card, and the human eye is always better than the technology side of things. So there is a company out there, a grading company that's in a bit of bother at the moment, I believe, that was using they were selling the fact that they were doing everything via AI. Yeah, you can't do that. I own technology companies. That's my background, and so we can build the tech to do this stuff. However, the human eye is always going to be better, without doubt. So that's our intentions over the next 24 months. We're growing slowly, a lot slower than we wanted to. I think the ADD and ADHD kicks in for me, and I want to do things faster, but at the same time, we're doing it properly. We spend a lot of money up front to make sure that we seal the cases properly. We make sure that we print the labels properly. The labels themselves are printed on a 3 or 4 meter long printer, and the labels are only this sort of big. But the reason is because they print white, they print clear, and they actually print the security features that we want to put on these labels. There's something like 27 or 32 security features on the labels that we've got now, and we'll be turning them into smart labels in the future. The future of this is all based around, obviously, NFTs and the blockchain. Every card that comes through here will be on the blockchain, and every card will also have its own NFT that's either associated with it or separate to it. That's the future of grading, and that's what we're doing in that space.
We love some of the things that the other Australian companies are doing. Like I personally like the TCG labels on the front, but we found we thought that no one was doing anything as well as they could. Like, I don't like the fact that, for example, one of the companies went to the 100-point scale and then moved back to the 10-point scale, because now a lot of people have. Well, I've got a card that's graded 98. What does that even mean anymore?
Means you should get it re-slabbed.
Yeah, well, they do offer that. But
do you reckon part of that is just they're obviously changing within the market, but then that just gives them more opportunity to say, all right, well, look, send it in, we'll re-slab it for $10, and they just make a little bit of extra coin out of collectors that want to conform to the new grading standards that they've set.
Yeah, I think they've done something to be different, and then they've conformed once everybody kicked up a stink.
Yeah,
I think that's the reason they're doing it. That's a wank move. Seriously, like, be honest and transparent. That's what we build all our companies off, is the fact that the honesty and transparency of the grade. Like, we'll take a photo of every part of that card, put it online so you can have a look at it. Like, we're not giving away 10s. I think we've had 4 or 5 10s or something.
No, it's double figures now.
Double or 10 10s. There you go. Out of over 3,500 cards. Like, if you look at it that way, we've never given away a platinum 10. Not that we're being super harsh, but just following a process. And as long as the process is followed, I think all these companies that do stuff where they're trying to grab second grabs is not right for the hobby.
Yeah,
Now-
fair enough.
Quick question. Centering. There's a big thing around centering because we know, PSA does a 60-40. And then you got other companies that do a lot more
80-20.
Yeah, look, we've seen some ridiculous ones. All right, we've all seen the ridiculous centered PSA 10. What guidelines do you guys go by? Do you go by 50-50? Do you do like a 55, 55 and 45, or do you have a set guideline that you use for centering?
Well, without giving out too much information, because we try and keep some stuff secret, I guess. But we have everyone's seen the centering tool, the clear bit of plastic. That is, I think it's one of 3 steps we use for centering. As far as I'm aware, it's the 45-55. But the thing that we do, that's why we do subgrades. Like, I hate the fact that some of the big companies don't do subgrades.
Oh, thank God.
It doesn't, like, I want to know, like, if I send a batch of cards in and, they all get 8s, I want to know why. Is it a corner? Is it something? So that to educate to the next time I send the batch in, I want all my cards to grade well. Like, I don't want every card to be 10 because that's just impossible, because the life of a card before I get it in my hands could go through 20 pairs of hands. It's got to be packed. It's got to be, like, there's so many different levels before I get it. But you can't just give a number and then no reasoning why, no report as to where. Like, you can't just give it.
On average, how much time would you spend on like a card to grade it? Because
30 seconds, 40 seconds.
Based off.
No, not at all.
Oh, okay, okay.
I think they're doing 30 cards a day at the maximum at the moment. Our graders.
Oh, how many graders in total?
We've got
5 now.
4.5.
Yeah, 4.5.
That's okay, 4.5. So they spend about, it equates to around about 6 hours.
It's 30 each.
30 each, sorry.
30 each. 30 each.
Yeah. That's an average. Like, we have some guys that are quicker, like the more experienced ones.
Yeah.
And then, so the 4.5, we're teaching, we have a researcher that we're teaching to grade at the moment.
But you're definitely spending more than a minute.
30 seconds.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, mate, I'll tell you, as part of the process, and we showed a bit of this at the Hobby Hangout, the reason we had the microscope at the Hobby Hangout so people could just bring their cards and have a little look is the fact that every card uses the little plastic thing. Every card goes under the microscope. If it's over a 9 or a 9.5, one of the other boys has a look at it as well. We thought we had our first Platinum 10 2 days ago, and so I had to go through 3 other guys just to make sure. And the one-eyed bloke in the office actually picked it up and found the fault. So yeah, one of my Jez did well. And but the thing with that is that's why we care. Excuse me. The big thing here is that we don't want to just rush these through, because if you rush them through, you're going to fuck it up, and that's not something we're trying to do.
Thank you. I just wanted to point that out there, because I don't know if you've heard. There's actually people that have broken down one of the the main grading company on planet Earth. I'm not going to mention
we're allowed to say the name, aren't we?
Yeah, I was going to
PSA. No, we can say the fucking name, Dom. PSA, right?
Yeah, well, might as well.
There's people out there who have broken down the map.
The owner fucking hates us anyway, so I couldn't
who cares?
Fuck him.
Mate, the owner's a PS2 lobbyists. There you go.
Exactly right. Yeah, someone's broken it down, Saucy, as he mentioned, and it's equated to around about 30 seconds to a minute per card that gets graded.
Oh, this is based off their numbers a month.
Yeah, monthly.
Their numbers a month,
and their employees
that
and
have
the cards.
said they have.
Yeah.
And they've broken it down.
They did
they were working 8 to 9 hour
cards.
days. It would be 30 seconds to a minute per card.
Well, you got to look at it this way too. Yeah, like apologies for the sarcasm, but it takes less than 1 second to grade a celebrity's card. It just comes through and you put a 10 on it, so it's easy. Those ones are the quick ones. So you'd probably be able to get thousands of those done a day, because it comes in and goes, oh yeah, double coverage 10. That's how it should work, and then, but it's not. And then it's 10s. Yeah, it's a good marketing. It's a good marketing play if you give 10s to celebrities that are pushing out your cards, and then it just makes sense. But besides the point, and when you got no subgrades, I agree with you, Chris, 100%. And something that Sauce and I have been preaching on this podcast since day dot. We said, how can you buy any graded card? Because there's other grading companies that go without subgrades. How can you buy a card that's graded and not know how you got the grade at all? Not even be told how you got the grade. And the funniest part about all of it is when one card, when PSA was killing it with their sales for their graded cards, at the same time, BGS was still very dominant in the market. They've obviously fallen off a cliff here. We don't even know if they still exist. But the funniest part about it was, if you went to go buy a BGS graded card, and you can buy them obviously with the subgrades or without subgrades, the cards that were slabbed without subgrades were significantly less than the card that had the subgrades. Yet when it came to the other grading company, it's like, oh, we don't care about subgrades. We don't need them. So it's like within the BGS circle, for example, everyone gave a shit. And then when you're comparing other slabs, oh no, we don't need it anymore. It's like, I'm with you. I love the fact.
There you go. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I was just saying I love the fact that you got subgrades. You don't, the way that if you ever, when you do go grade with Platinum Standard grading, the subgrades are on the back of the card as well. So some people don't like seeing their subgrades on the front of the card, but they're there. It's on the back.
I'm one of those.
Yeah, so which is pretty cool as well. Just with the...
It depends what you're in the hobby for. Like there's some people that just like are in it to flip. So if it's a PSA 10, they don't give a fuck about the subgrades. They're just
correct.
But it's not an option to get subgrades. It comes with every card. Yeah. So I think there needs. I like the fact that there's formality with what you do. There's no pay an extra $5 for the subgrades. No, every card comes with subgrades. You pay for you pay for that. Like, you know what I mean? Like there's no upcharge or anything, which is ridiculous what other companies do, and companies were still doing it.
You mean holding your cards ransom if it gets a good grade?
Yeah, no. I'm saying how there's an upcharge with other companies like BGS and CSG, which now they've gotten rid of subgrades altogether. So I just think it's better to just have some formalities and uniformity across like what you do, and that's the way.
Well, are they even gradings? My question, Source. Are they even grading, or are they just encapsulating with a label? Because if they're not actually grading the card and they're just giving it a number out of 10 that they pluck out of their ass, then why would you want that? Like, yeah, it may give you more value, but however, I challenge every single grading company on the planet to provide a photo of why the card was graded down. Okay, this corner's fucked. Well, where's the photo of that? Prove it.
And that's something you're doing from the inception of your company.
100%. Every single card, and that's the reason it takes longer, because they take photos of it.
Ladies and gentlemen, like this is a company new to the market, and this is why we say, get out there and support an Australian company, because think about what they're doing. This is from the inception of their company. These companies been around for 20 years, and they've just started to now catalog stuff, have an online system. PSA started now to do that, catalog their cards. You got other companies out there, I'll drop their names, FCG, that's doing something similar to you guys, and they've started that from the inception of their company, which I think is another, cool thing. But it's something that you want these factors when you get your cards graded, like and just the fact that you're doing this. And then obviously you spoke about the blockchain situation, how you're making things into an NFT, and that's going to all be linked into the label in due time. And no company's really talked about that. And I've always said on this show, I think that is the future of grading, linking your card to an NFT, so that, there's authenticity, double authenticity, that, you scan that QR code and it verifies that QR code is for that card, or however it works. I'm not exactly sure the technology side behind it. That's not my expertise. I'll leave that to you guys, but I can see how that would play into it and be really cool. And, not for anything, when you think about it, you send the card and you essentially get two investments for one, if people want to think of it like that, because then you get an NFT that you could potentially flip later on. And people are paying stupid money for, Panini NFTs that are digital. So, why not a PSG graded NFT of your card? Like, it makes sense.
Well, the big thing with that is that you've actually got a physical object as well as the NFT. One thing we have just done, and we launched at the Brisbane Hobby Hangout, is that we're actually encapsulating people's NFTs now. So what we've done is we've turned the label black and matrix green, and it's just an NFT. So what happens if you've got an NFT? We take a photo of the NFT, we turn it into a card, we put a link to the NFT on the back. So you've actually got, similar to your normal card collection, you can actually have an encapsulated NFT now as well.
Oh, really? There you go. That's something very
there's
different.
that, and then there's the PC side of things. We found a lot of people didn't want to actually get some of their cards graded; they just wanted them encapsulated. So we then went with the PC, which is a white label that we use. All our labels look exactly the same, but just different colours. And the white labels for personal collection. So we don't grade them; we just encapsulate, and you can actually write whatever you want on those. So we can actually put some things on the back or whatever way you want that to happen. So that's pretty cool. One of the ideas that Chris come up with when he come on board, because it was like, okay, how are we going to get more business? What else can we do here? And how can we get our branding out there? And that was one of the ones, which is actually pretty cool.
I like it. I like it a lot. Pitfalls as a grading company, obviously as starting up the company and stuff, and you're looking, as you mentioned before, you looked at a lot of the other companies out there internationally based here in Australia. What are some things that obviously you're very, very cautious of? I just want to give an insight to people in the hobby listening to this, so then they actually understand that these are things that you're looking out for. Obviously, you mentioned it before, you're there for the consumer. So some pitfalls that you want to avoid, and obviously why people in Australia at the moment, because you're trying to become number one here in the country. So why people in the hobby here in Australia should be using platinum standard grading, full stop, over everyone else.
Mate, our biggest pitfall at the moment is we're Australian. 100%. The biggest
I like
issue
that.
we've got in this market
honest.
is
That's
we're
honest.
Australian. And
we
the
can
fact
sympathise
that,
with you, mate. Like, we're the exact same with our podcast. Like,
mate, the best
the same
country on the
shit.
planet, and people in the hobby get the shits because you're an Australian company. I just don't understand it. I think because the people that came before us did a really bad job, or the fact that PSA and BGS now have got the brand and all that sort of stuff. But Source, you hit the nail on the head, mate. 30 seconds a card. Like, I look at all these hobby groups and all this stuff on Facebook, and they sit there, I'd only get my card graded at PSA, or I'd only get my card graded at BGS. My question is why? I guarantee our grades will be more accurate. I guarantee you'll get more from the grading. And at the same time, is you're not paying ridiculous amounts of money, because, like, is it one of them was like when they're holding your card, if it's worth over a certain value, then you got to pay more money. What the fuck was that? We're an encapsulation company. It is what we do. We actually we preserve cards, we grade cards, and if that means it gives the card a better value, fucking even better, great. But at the same time, you send me something that's good, I'm not going to sit there and go, actually, I reckon that's worth 10G, so now you owe me $1,000. That's robbery.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest issues that we have is trust. Like, a new company starting off in a space that's been, American company dominated for 20 years or whatever. For people outside of Australia to grow, even people within Australia, like, a lot of what we found at the Hobby Hangout was not a lot of people knew who we were. We did some good things at the Hobby Hangout. We had a huge flag that was number one. That was everywhere. So that drew people to us. And then once you were there, we had the scope. People looking at their cards. Like, people
were grading for life. That was pretty good.
People were genuinely interested. The golden ticket was a huge hit at both shows.
So can you explain to listeners what the golden ticket was? You obviously were sponsoring the event as well.
So we
just a bit of
sponsored
insight.
both events, and we offered free grading for life, which was a card graded a month for 25 years. Yep. It's sort of, we ripped it off the Willy Wonka.
That was the platinum ticket.
Yeah. The platinum was the free grading for life, but the gold ticket was 10 cards express graded and a holiday, or a luxury hotel voucher. Sorry.
Nice.
So there was 4 winners of the golden ticket, and then 1 of the platinum at each show.
That's awesome.
Very nice.
But trust is the big thing, and that's why we're as honest and transparent as possible. But the other thing is customer service. Like, I'm one of the people that I don't sleep a lot, so I'll sit at home on my phone and answering emails myself. We get random questions at all hours of the day. Like, a lot of questions we get would be like, it'd be someone from America screenshotting a Honus Wagner because there was a company called Premier Sports Grading in the States, and they graded a lot of baseball in the early 90s. I'd get one a week, I reckon, email saying, can you confirm this is a real card graded by your company? And I'm like, no, like it's not. This company, it says it on the back of the slab, Premier Sports Grading. Our company's called Platinum Standard Grading. So no, it's not us. But yeah, like, so like we try and answer like as many questions as possible. I think we're here to help as well. Like a lot of people have fallen back in the hobby because they've seen the spike and they're like, well, I've got all these cards. Are they worth anything? And then you get emails like, oh, should I grade this? And like, as the general manager of a grading company, obviously I want to say, yeah, grade a lot. But there's no point. Like you've got to tell people the truth. Like, well, if the cards, if it's damaged, a lot of these cards have been in, they're not sleeved, they're not top loaded, they're just sitting in a shoebox under a bed for 20 years. So odds are they're not in good condition, so they're not worth grading.
Trust factor is massive, and obviously people that listen to our podcast know that we've obviously partnered up with yourselves and we're doing a bulk sub here in Victoria, and it has been like, we're honest and transparent as well on this show, and it has been difficult to get people to send the cards across. And a lot of people always and people in the hobby, it's like, oh, what should I send there? Should I grade with them? And we always say, yeah, of course you should be grading with them. And they might have a massive card and they're hesitant. And the way that we're trying to get that trust built around your company, what Source and I, we always keep saying to people, if you don't want to send the big card in, how about you try sending some of your lower stuff in, just getting a feel of the company, get used to the slabs, the labels. And if you fall in love with it, obviously, keep grading. You can send your bigger card there. But it's trying to get people out of that mentality of, I've got the $10,000 card. It has to go one place and one place only. That's it.
Yeah, for sure.
And we disregard everything else.
It's really interesting. I'm going to turn this question back on you guys. Why do you do what you do? Why do you do this podcast?
Well, we say it pretty much every week. We've actually starting the show with the most underrated podcast, sports/sport trading card podcast on planet Earth at the moment, because we've been giving transparent, open and honest feedback on the hobby for almost 2 years now. And like, we've got the diehards that listen to us every week. We've got people just here in Australia that listen to us. We don't expect people to listen to us, full stop. But the thing that we hated the most was there's a narrative. Source and I are like this regardless, where there's a narrative and everyone has to live by the narrative, and there's nothing else outside of what you're being told. And that could be in general life, in our work industry that we work in. It's like there's other options. There's always two sides to every story. And especially in the hobby, because we've been in it and we've seen it, and we've seen BGS, the rise and the fall, and then we've seen the low end of PSA, now the massive rise in that company, and the acquisitions, and how the hobby is becoming more of a business across the board now than it actually is for the benefit of the people collecting the cards. I don't care what anyone says. Like, that's what it's become now.
True.
It's commercialized. You got all these fractional companies coming in, and you got every grading company now is doing the same thing as PSA to an extent, and BGS, but they're not understanding that if you follow that model, you're actually going to hurt yourselves in other areas, because the thing that they've struggled, a lot of these companies, it could be because of high volume of cards, is customer service. And then they go through that and they go, oh, I'm waiting 1 year for my cards. Well, like, they're going through the same model. To answer that question is, we do it because honestly, we love the hobby. We love the people in the hobby. It's the community behind it all. Like your story yourselves, like your origin story, like Platinum Standard Grading. I know you've made the leap, Brett, to start it, but honestly, your connection with Chris came over cards. Like, it's the community with the cards. Like, that's what the hobby was. And now we keep saying that the hobby isn't dead, but it's dead in terms of like that relationship you make with other people, and that like, it's just become all commercial and money value. That's all people talk about now. And it's sad. And we're trying to just open up people's eyes that there is things to collect out there. And people say you should never tell people to collect what they like. Well, then what the fuck are they meant to collect? go buy
I love
1800.
Topps Chrome.
Like, yeah, you know what I mean?
I
Like,
collect everything Topps Chrome. It could be wrestling, it could be, but I
Yeah,
don't
but-
necessarily follow
Yeah.
wrestling. But it's Topps
Yeah.
Chrome. So
but I'm not going to.
I reckon you can answer that whole question in 4 words, mate, and that is you actually give a shit.
Yeah,
right?
100%.
The big difference is that we actually give a shit about the hobby. We give a shit about the people within the hobby, and we actually want to make an actual difference here. Like, I know it's not wanky marketing words, but that's what we do. We want to make a difference, and we've seen an opportunity. Yep, are we going to monetize on that? Fucking oath. I want to sell this company for $1 billion, but at the same time, we want to do it fairly, we want to do it transparently, and we want to do it for the hobby. That's the whole reason we're here.
Yeah, I'm with you all the way.
And credit to you guys and this is what I always say to people. And look, I'm not into this, trying to defend people like on Facebook when I drop in there. Someone put in a Pokemon group the other day. If I was using a company in Australia to grade cards, which would I use? Obviously, I dropped you a tag. I said I would use this company, right? And you got people in the comments saying, "Oh, I just wouldn't use any Australian company." And I comment and I go, "Why, mate? Like, why not?" Like we've put so much faith in these American companies and been screwed over time and time again, right? Why not support an Australian company that is grading cards? Well, at least they're taking more than a minute on your card, right? And give them a crack, right? Look, it's the same thing that we said about HGA. And look, unfortunately, the way that they conduct the business, I hope that, you've taken some lessons from these other companies and, seen from the outside what they've done and go, well, we probably shouldn't do that because that's going to hurt our company in the long run. And you learn from their mistakes, which unfortunately HGA didn't learn from the other company's mistakes. And they ended up with a backlog, which was, in part probably to prop up their company because they've now sold it. So, it could it be that? I'm not sure, but it looks a bit like that from the outside. But yeah, I just hope that, some of those lessons you've learned and, I don't fight back with these people all the time. I just say, why not give them a shot, and my response to these people is, mate, and I had someone say, who the fuck is, PS grading, right? And I tagged you and I said, well, I'm not sure if you've been in the hobby, but at the Hobby Hangout, they were one of the major sponsors. They're putting themselves out there. They're putting money behind the hobby here in Australia. I said that's a lot more than I can say for any other Australian grading company. They're not even, not even out on the front foot, other than TCG that have a bit of a presence at Hobby Hangout, which is the #1 show, that we have here in Australia. Like that's sort of my response to these people.
More grading companies to be there. There was only the one other.
Yeah.
I expected
Was it TCG?
Sure.
TCG grading was the only other one there on the day.
Yep.
Yeah, that's like what do you? In all honesty, like I don't like putting people on flame here in the country because I like to back people here in Australia. But like, what are you doing? So, like honestly, if you had a card store, if you had a card store or a grading company, or you're making card supplies like Palms Off, they were there. But if you're into making card supplies, top loaders, sleeves, folders, binders, it doesn't matter what it is. If you got anything to do with cards here in Australia, in Melbourne for that show, or you're in Brisbane or you're in Sydney, and you chose not to go because it's not my thing, like what are you doing?
Yeah, when are you going to get a room full of 1,000 like-minded people?
Yeah,
like you don't get that chance every week. So yeah, it was a no-brainer for us. One thing we talked about earlier was trust. And why people are so trusting in these American companies. It's like you've got to send them to America, and that's a whole other kettle of fish. Like what company are you going to use to send your cards? And then that's the time factor. Like like thank God for Ship My Cards. They can get stuff to Australia within like 5 days using FedEx. But going the other way, it can take up to 2 weeks, and then it's just. And then it's just for me, it's not worth, especially if you've got 100 cards. That's expensive. Number one, you've got to trust it to get to the States, and then PSA has to go into their system, or whatever company you use has to go into their system, and then it's the whole sending it back too. Like it's a long period. Like I know you said, people have been waiting a year for their cards. Like
1 to 2 years.
That would stress me out.
Oh, 100%.
And
100%.
especially if you're not doing it yourself, like if you're doing it through a third party, which like we've seen Mark's Cards and like the failure of that, you've got to trust at like multiple levels, like the third party company you're using, the freight forwarder or
the panic is there though too. Like, and
yeah.
like for example, like we can give a bit of insight. Like we don't care, but like the panic that we actually had doing the HGA bulk sub here, we sent 2 subs off. We're struggling to get contact from the company. There was no updates in the portal. All it said was scanned. One said that they were ready to be graded, and it sat in there for 4 weeks, 5 weeks, no response. And we started panicking and then we started saying to people, listen, we're accepting submissions, but we're probably not going to send it till the first 2 come back. And we kept pushing. Source was he went into crazy mode, which is what you have to do because you're looking after people's goods and services. Because through the failures of the grading company, it's going to fall back on us. And we've done nothing. We've done nothing, and we're the ones that are going to have to fucking pay for it. Cop the criticism. Oh, why didn't you get the cards back? You could have done more. Blah blah blah. Like people that in that moment, because it's their goods, they don't think about the fact that it's overseas. Like I can't fucking get on a plane and fly to Queensland, for example, and just knock on the door and say, "Hey boys, like I need the cards. I know we've got a massive backlog, but fuck, I'm getting flamed here." Or be able to call you. Like it just doesn't work that way.
I've never dealt with HGA. Do you have an agent or an account manager?
We've had 3 account managers change, and this is where honestly, this is where the issue was. And like, there's a portal in there, so we'd log in like every couple of days to make sure has it moved along, and then we're hounding them with emails, not for anything. We got both subs back at the same time, so they just send it in one shipping, which was good. We got them back, and that was a week and a half ago. We got them back after about 6 months, and then obviously the news came out yesterday. So we went on the front foot and just said, like, we're honest. We just said, like, we probably wouldn't want you to send the cards to us till we find out a bit more about this takeover. So if you've sent cards to us, we had a few sent in. Like, if you want the reimbursement, we'll reimburse you and we'll send you your cards back. Like, that's it. Like,
we also offered them to send it to Platinum
to you boys too.
So at least they get their card graded. We gave them that an option. So it's up to them. But we put the ball in other people's court, and we're open and honest, and we would just be transparent with people. What the situation we dealt with. With HGA and sending them multiple emails. I mean, Chris, the one good thing I'm going to say, the dealings that we've had with you, we send you an email. We generally get an email back within 24 hours, right? Which is, a lot more than I can say for HGA in that fact, where I sent 5 emails and got 0 response. And that was over a period of 2.5 weeks, right? So, there's basic customer service is not difficult. Like people, you might not have the right answer at that point in time, but the fact that you can respond and say something, that's more than a lot of companies that are in the grading
a lot of the time
space
I don't have the answer
don't say anything.
Yeah, I won't have the answer. So I it takes a couple of minutes to write an email with that, but I will say, let me reach out to my graders and get back to you with a response.
That's it. That's all you have to do.
Someone was contacting us last week about the MLB heritage because they're that paper stock and they're the black bordering, so they whitened on the back end, the corners. And he was like, "Are these more harshly graded because of this, this, and this?" And I'm like, "I don't have the answer, but I'll get back to you." And then I just said, "Look, send a photo through, and we'll look at it." Because you can't give one answer and it's just it's the same for everything. Every card's completely different. So he sent a couple of photos and I said, honestly, they're not going to grade that well. They're whitened on the corners and they're turned a little bit. So it's basic stuff. I think
just honest.
It bugs me when I send an email and I don't get a response the same day. And then obviously you can't get to every email that day. But then when you come in first thing in the morning, sorry for the late reply. It's common sense. Like it's just basic stuff.
The bottom line is, if you're listening to this,
2.5 weeks, no email. That's no good.
Yeah. The bottom line is, if you listen to this, ladies and gents, transparency is the key. If any grading company or any podcast or anything out there, like we'll hold ourselves all accountable here for it. But if you can't be transparent and be honest with the people, then how can you trust them to do anything for you? And that's the thing internationally, the problem I think we've had. I don't know if it is because we're here in Australia, like you mentioned before, Brett, but we'll keep doing what we're doing here in this country for the people in the hobby here. It's just about them obviously accepting us and embracing us. And that's hopefully the point that we can get to when there's enough of your slabs in the market and then enough people here in the country in the hobby listening to us. Hopefully it changes people's minds that, you know what, I don't need to send 10 cards over to the States for $5,000. I could send 10 cards for $250 instead. Because you're not grading, like you're not scaling them based on their price range on the card value. It's like, no, we just want to get your card encapsulated, like you said, give you grades, give you a potential NFT on the blockchain in the future, give you all the bells and whistles for a one-off fee. There's no extra charges here. There's no extra charges there. The extra charges, obviously, if you want it express, which makes sense, like every other grading company. So hopefully that's the trust we can all build in the community amongst each other, and that's what's going to propel us going forward. So in the future, so hopefully we can hold on to that and get the ball rolling. Hopefully we can get some more cards sent down from our end for yourselves here in Victoria. But we will move on just before we do finish up and get what's next for Platinum Standard Grading. Obviously, you've got some events coming up. Just what you both enjoy collecting.
I know BJ's got a big Robert Horry collection. I bloody know that. He's just freaking seen one the other post just yesterday. He's just
big shot.
Robert Horry's everywhere.
Mate, the addiction. I'll tell you a funny story. I actually didn't know who Robert Horry was about a year and a half ago, and I got this guy come in and he said, "Do you want to buy this singlet?" And I was going, "What is it?" And it had Horry written on the back. And when I was a kid, my nickname was Horry. And but it was because I had a massive forehead and they called me Horrid Forehead. True story. So Horry was where that came from. So I then started collecting Robert Horry cards, found out who he was, and then got all excited, watched the whole pile of highlights. He's got more rings than Michael Jordan. And it's now an obsession. The post I put up yesterday on the NBA Marketplace, I think it was something like 14 flawless cards that I'd acquired over the last couple of weeks from send my cards shipped into us. But I do have a substantial Horry collection. I think there's 75 more coming in the next couple of weeks. But on top of that, I collect the McVeigh brothers in the AFL. Yeah. I coached them as kids. So Jared and Mark McVeigh. I collect Luke Longley, just Luke Longley auto cards. And I collect the Boomers cards. So I've got one card of each player that's ever played for the Boomers. And what I do is that every time I get a better version of a card for that player, I'll sell the other one. So the whole idea here is to end up with either one of ones of all these or 2 10 on-card autos of those Boomers players. I collect WWE. I collect Pat McAfee's one of my big collections at the moment. I accidentally bought a full-size WWE belt signed by Pat McAfee the other day and had that shipped to ship my cards accidentally.
This is all to my ship my cards account, may I say. I wake up some mornings with like 20 notification emails to say your parcel has arrived.
Yeah, it's funny that he didn't actually buy it. That all came from me. But yeah, they're my big collections, mate. So I'd say Horry, Pat McAfee, and also anything that looks pretty cool. Big fan of looking, and I buy way too many cards. That's pretty much what it comes down to.
I like shiny stuff. So Drone is my. It doesn't matter what it is. It could be Euro soccer, WWE, Formula One. I love. I'm big on the '90s players. Like I love Vince Carter, Dirk Nowitzki, Paul Pierce. They're around that same draft class. What else? I like the old Prism, like 17, 18 Prism. I like that. I like Court Kings as well, actually.
Yeah, Court Kings is good.
So I love Court Kings. Court Kings is an interesting one. They're a real tough grade because they're the canvassy. But I love the 17, 18 set, just the box itself. They were the big rectangle boxes. They come with the box topper. Court Kings, just ain't anything, to be honest. Old rugby league, like I'm a Sharks supporter, so going back and trying to collect all the cards that I wanted as a kid that couldn't get. So there's like so the first set of cards that I think I remember buying was 1994 ARL Dynamic. Dynamic Marketing were still the distributor or the producer. So yeah, there's a set called Top 10. So it's the top 10 players and their gold cards.
Oh, nice.
So those I'm trying to get. Just random stuff that you don't expect. Like he got a Donald Trump card.
Oh yeah, that's my other addiction at the moment is Trump. I got a Donald Trump patch card, and the patch is actually the American flag.
Oh, there's I thought you were going to say a patch of his wig. That's what I thought was going to be.
That would be
awesome. Yeah.
You can comb it every morning. Just comb it every morning. Oh, that'd be hilarious. No, I love it. I love it, gents. I love it. That's very nice.
I think he's the same. We just like opening boxes and packs and stuff. So, I'll come in one day like, I just got this. Let's open it, and it'd be
a case of Playboy or something like that.
Yeah, a case of Playboy or a box of the US presidents. Just random stuff like.
But that's the joy of the hobby, ripping stuff is that's the best part about it. Like if you look at it under a microscope, so business oriented, you never will get the full experience and enjoyment out of the hobby. And that was the hardest thing to try and push across the people when they obviously came in that boom. They were very new. They were like flipping to make money. They didn't actually come in and really enjoy it to an extent. It's like they saw money value, and it was just like a short stay at a hotel. Literally come in, make some money, see you later. There was no long-term stint. So that's the unfortunate thing, but it's a good thing, obviously, trying to push that across to the younger ones, like the kids and stuff, that you can rip stuff. And obviously the hobby does present itself with business oriented skills to teach your children and stuff as well, which is pretty good, about how to, have a bankroll and stuff like that, which is fantastic.
BJ's youngest son is the biggest hustler you've ever seen in your life.
He's 13, mate. You take him to a trade day, guaranteed to make money.
I give him my cards or some cards and go, see what you can get for him, and we'll do a deal, and you get a percentage. And he got $200 for a card. I was ready to sell for $80.
I've taught him well.
He's an absolute monster. Like, we've got a trade day coming up at Rip and Collect this weekend, and I've negotiated a deal with him already.
So he'll do his trades. He's 13. You gotta love
that. That's honestly awesome. Like, it's fantastic to see. I love it. I love it. Gents, what's next for PSG Platinum Standard Grading?
So the branding out there is the biggest thing for us at the moment. Platinum Standard Grading is the major sponsor, along with Media 8 Events, for Josh Giddey coming to Australia. So we've got Josh Giddey. Obviously, we're gonna take Source, because you don't want to come with us, Dom. Next week down in Melbourne, we're gonna go there and have a few beers and a feed and listen to Josh Giddey. We're then going the next night to Sydney for the same event. But up here on the Gold Coast, we're hosting the event. There's a kids camp in the afternoon on the 7th of May. And then in the evening, it's an evening with Josh Giddey. So that's pretty exciting. We've got a couple of other athletes that we're in discussions with, very tall human beings that may be on the books over the coming weeks and months. And then next for us is just getting the brand out there, keeping up what we're doing, increasing. My challenge now to Chris is to increase those numbers. We need to start getting more grades through the door. We're going to go to the US, more than likely go to the US for the Nationals,
Nice.
to just go, and we'll plaster ourselves up with PSG stuff and just walk around talking to people, take some slabs with us and give them away to people, and just see what people's feedback is. So we'll probably take a camera crew or something with us and actually get a whole pile of content based around that. I'd love to sort of get the US feedback on our stuff as well, because then we can come back and show some of that stuff here. So that's one of the things we're doing. And we've got a tour at the end of the year with Chris Anstey. We're going to the US and going, it's an NBA tour, which should be pretty cool. So that's what's for us at the moment. Just keep building technology as best we can. You'll see a new app come out very, very shortly, which will assist you with being able to identify a card, being able to see what the card's worth. There may be some other competitors in the market at the moment, but this thing will actually work. There'll be a new website that comes out that enables you to type in a card, and it'll tell you what the prices are within seconds as opposed to within hours. And I just love those little digs. Sorry about that. But at the same time, yeah, we're just pushing the banner and doing what we can for the hobby.
Hobby hangout, I think, would be for us to again. Like the first two, we've shown our face, we've met people. I think the next one, so the Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane again, I think that'll be really important. I imagine more grading companies will want to be there this time because, like, it was our first big show, the one in Melbourne, and for me, it was a huge success.
It was awesome, yeah.
And just not even just being there, like being in a room with other collectors. There were people that I had never met before, but seen on socials, and was able to talk to them, buy cards off them, and stuff like that. So that's good to go again.
I think the best thing about the hobby hangout in Melbourne, I walked outside when the line, and that line went for like miles. And the guy at the front of the line, I said, "What are you doing here, buddy?" And he goes, "Mate, I'm here to get my cards graded. First guy in the line, I'm going to Platinum Standard Grading and to put some cards in." And I just went, "Fuck, we're known now. Like there is a bloke in this line. Even if it was only one guy, he actually knew why he was there. He actually came to see us, and he actually wanted to get cards graded with us. That gives you a little bit of it gives you a good feeling by being able to produce that. But at the same time, it means what we're doing is actually working."
Definitely. Like it. I think we'll be there in July. We'll try and get to Sydney, Sauce and I. We'll try and work out
Nice.
our magic to get there. I think on a different scale, we'll obviously talk to Andrew there at the Hobby Hangout. We want to do things a bit differently. But and then we'll also be on the trip to America with you boys because you'll get us tickets first class. So we're excited for that one too. So.
Well, yeah, for Sauce only because he's coming.
Oh, here we go.
Yeah,
all right. I'll sit in the cargo, mate. I'll sit in the cargo with the freaking suitcase.
We'll just get you an oversized luggage, mate. You just chuck you in the luggage.
Who's your plus one, Sauce?
Well, this is the thing. I said I'm not sure. I think I might have to try drag my brother along with me because I got a ticket because I thought my mate would want to come, but he's decided not to come. So I might just drag my brother.
Run a giveaway, maybe.
Yeah, all that.
It's a good idea.
That's a good idea too. That's a good idea.
There you go.
A couple of other things to look out for, boys. We're going to be major sponsors of a few things this year that we're going to be talking to you guys about. You look out for brands such as Cardladder. Look out for brands such as Sumo. And a few other things that we're some of our partners and some of the stuff that we're playing with. There's the Australian Hobby Group, I believe, is going to be involved with some of the stuff we do as well. So look out for a couple of new brands in the market that we're going to be backing and pumping 100%.
Perfect.
There you go, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, getting behind other people in the hobby, platinum grading, getting involved in events. Like this is why we try to say to you, ladies and gentlemen, give them a crack. Just please send some cards, give them a crack because, think about all the good they're doing for the hobby here in Australia. Like it's a lot more than other grading companies that have been around for a lot longer here in Australia. A lot more than, they've done more in the last 3 months than they have done in their whole existence for the hobby here in Australia. Like it's, ladies and gentlemen, just, you need to open your eyes, have an open mind and, give them a crack.
And come sub some cards with us here in Victoria.
Exactly.
But in all honesty, gents, thank you for
the
joining
only Victorian sub.
Thank you. Yeah, we are. We are the only Victorian sub. So, yeah, send your cards through. And obviously, we'll be able to send them to these two lovely gentlemen over in Queensland.
And if you have an issue, send me an email and I'll try my best to reply.
That's it.
24 hours.
That's it. Well, thank you for both jumping on. And also a big thank you as well to yourselves for listening to our podcast. You may not listen to it every week, but the fact that when we bumped into each other at the Hobby Hangout, the first thing you said is, "Oh, we heard your review of our website."
We loved it.
Oh, man, it was awesome.
Yeah, like just that stuff as well. That's our intention, Sauce and I, to bring some entertainment, some content. Some
even the chat you had about the flawless 17-18 versus 2021. Like
last week. Yeah, that was That's an interesting topic. There's so many.
No, well, I 17-18 is one of my favorite draft classes for ages. So as soon as I mentioned that, I was like, yeah, it's so true.
Don't worry, just listen to this week's podcast. We've got some big things getting absolutely flamed this week, I tell you, and it could revolve around some boxes close to $2,000 for a certain product that is not even worth $400 if you ask me. So on that note,
it's not WWE Prism, is it?
Yep. On that note,
Mate, I've just gone hard. I got an Andre the Giant. I got a Hulk Hogan. I've just gone out and bought singles because I thought that was going to make me a lot of money. Are you going to poo-poo that?
yeah, I'm poo-pooing it. Straight up poo-pooing it. Like
Well,
straight up.
It's gonna crash. It's gonna crash hard, just like the Marvel PMG market when everyone thought that Marvel PMGs was going to be, the next big thing, and then now they're down 75% from when they bought it at the highest.
All zero cool V friends that had dropped about almost 100%.
They took a massive hit.
Good time to buy them. Jump in now. Buy when it's low.
It's still good to buy it's still good to buy that
go.
product. Besides the point, like it's if it's attached to Gary V, it's going to make you money at some stage. So,
for sure,
100%. So,
100%.
Thanks again, gents. It has been Brett and Chris from Platinum Standard Grading, with obviously the great man Sauce and myself, Doma. It's double coverage. Keep living, loving, and breathing sport. And peace.
Peace out, boys.
Cheers, guys.
Thank you for tuning in. Please don't forget to leave a review on the Apple Podcasting app. Also, follow us on socials, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and TikTok. Talking all sports, double curve.